Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another Journey on the Fly podcast. So we're still breaking into our fly fishing flows. And last week was some reflection and thoughts on kind of fly fishing historically and where we can go with it, creating our own history, if you will. And this week, I want to continue that strain of philosophical thought before we get into some more of the technical things and with some of the guests that I have lined up that I'm really excited about. So this week, I want to talk to you about how fly fishing is an invitation to wonder and to knowledge. Fly fishing, to me, is a conduit. And as a forewarning, I'm recording this 2 days away from Good Friday. So there'll be some tasteful and challenging thoughts that I want to offer you. So, let's get into this. All right, my family of fly fishers, men and women, children alike. If you happen to have your kiddos listening to this, or if you're a kiddo listening to this, or maybe you're just a kiddo at heart. So I want to talk to you today, as I mentioned there a little bit, to kind of keep the philosophical mindset flowing a little bit on, to kind of provoke thoughts about fly fishing, when we're out fly fishing, the world in which we are fly fishing in, because I want to help build a deeper appreciation to what is really the experience that we're granted through this beautiful sport. Gregory the Great once said, "Full of wonder, then, are all things, which we never think to wonder at, because we have, by habit, become dull to the consideration of them." And it's interesting because, to paraphrase C.S. Lewis along these same lines, he says as an adult, sometimes we have to regress to being a child to really begin to read fiction, or to take what he's saying, to extrapolate that a little bit further, is to say that to really begin to enjoy life, we have to see it through the eyes of the child that we once were. Sometimes we become demysticized, or we become unenchanted with the world around us. And it's not that hard, right? I mean, if any of us can think what the news is giving us, and it doesn't matter where the news is coming from, whether it's a right or a left-leaning organization, setting even politics aside, man, the news can be pretty tough, because it seems like the highlight reel is all the bad stuff, and there's a little bit about some guy rescuing a cat from a tree. So it's not hard to become disenchanted with life in general. And that's one of the things that drives me as a guide, because if you read some of the things that I talk about in the about stuff on that describes a little bit how I think about fly fishing on our website, you'll find that I want to be a liaison between the client and the guide. And I know that sounds out there, right? Ooh, it sounds, goofy, but just follow me for a second here. I'm a redneck. I just happen to read and appreciate good knowledge. And I appreciate the world around me for a lot of good reasons. And fly fishing helps me do that. But important to me, it also gives me an opportunity to help other people see and find that. And that's what this little talk is really about, because I'm setting this up for that when we start talking about fly lines and leaders and rods and casting and bugs and tying flies and all those things that break fly fishing down into the flows that it is, call them tributaries that feed the main flow of the river, then you can appreciate it deeper than just tying a fly and catching a fish. Or you can see that. Here's a good way from a personal perspective to kind of describe that. For many years, and I'll be honest, I'm a fairly emotional dude. I mean, I don't cry all the time, but I think my wife either gets weirded out or may appreciate that I am an emotional person. At least I'm okay sharing it and being vulnerable. When I see a sunrise that is just catching and beautiful and wonderful, there are times that I find myself in tears. And it's cool, people are looking down on me and that. I really just don't care. But one of the things I realized about a year or two ago was how much grace that is shown to me that I get to see the sunset. But there's another aspect of that I kind of, peeled back the layers of that onion. And that is the fact that I get to recognize the beauty of that sunset. So my challenge is, if you take that analogy and apply it, that experience, and you apply that as an analogy to fly fishing, we don't get to just fly fish. We actually get to discover and to enjoy the environment and the fishing and the camaraderie and all these things. We get to recognize those things. And what I'd like to do is help you wake that up inside of you, right? That you begin to appreciate things a little bit more. And fly fishing has always, always, always provoked wonder in many people. There's volumes written about this, and many people don't read today, so I feel a little obligated to bring it. And I'm not saying that all you that are listening to me are illiterate. That's not what I'm saying. But there is an illiteracy problem in this country. And I know some of you listeners are not from this country, and maybe you can objectively appreciate what I'm about to say. I think reading and knowledge gathering is important. If you want a strictly fly fishing technical approach to that, set the YouTube videos aside and pick up some books. There is so much data that describes to us that watching a video is passive. You very, very, very little of you is actually actively learning. Everybody says, well, I learn that way better. Well, people do learn some things visually and even some things by doing them. But it's interesting because every fiber of your being is engaged in learning when you read a book. Your mind, your emotions, your heart, your soul, if you will. You're physically involved in it. You learn to understand argumentation and rationality through reading, which can then be applied to seeing the stream and the casting and all those kinds of things come together. Reading cannot be put aside if you're going to be a good fly fisherman. It just can't. And I appreciate the videos and the instruction and the humor and the cool stuff that comes with them all. I'd be a hypocrite to not say that I have some videos of my own. But the truth of the matter is that I would never send somebody strictly to those videos. Anybody that's listening to this that's been on a trip with me, I've probably recommended books every single time I've been out with people. 2 clients on Monday, both of them separately. I asked them, do you like to read? And whether or not they said yes, I still recommended books to them because it furthers the reading. And books become a resource, right? We can go back and look at those books. A video could disappear someday or, whatever. The point is that reading is an engagement that sharpens the mind in the senses that nothing else can do. As a matter of fact, the data is obvious. The evidence is there to show that screen time dulls the senses and disconnects us from reality. Even if you're watching something that's real, you're not there. It's still virtual. Reading and books are an incredible medium to get any kind of a message out. Yet here I am talking, right? It's not quite a contradiction, but at least I'm promoting to read. Ross Inman wrote this about wonder. When we are gripped by wonder, we are startled out of the ordinary and humdrum of human experience. When rightly ordered, wonder can indicate to us that we are in the presence of something truly excellent and worthy of our sustained attention. Wonder is also a window through which we can see reality in its proper light. what is genuinely good, true, and beautiful, and subsequently worth pursuing, tends to invoke wonder. I think everybody listening to this can say at some time in their fly fishing careers that they've seen something true, beautiful, and good. In it, around it, about it. Wonder has a way of exposing to us how small we are compared to this thing that we are wondering about. To some, it can even cause an existential dilemma. Why am I here? What in the world's going on? It could put us up against something that is so much larger than us that we begin to even question existence. And yes, I will be completely forward with you here that in all of my candor that I can muster, when I fly fish, when I sit along the bank of a stream, when I see the glide of an eagle over my head, when I see a fisher jumping and scrolling from rock to rock looking for something to eat, when I look downstream and I see the smile on a friend's face as they net a fish, in particular a wild brown trout, just saying, it brings a sense of joy and wonder to me that is immense. It fills my heart and mind. But for me, it never stops there. It goes further. It's, as G.K. Chesterton once said, the mere fact that a thing happens seldom, under odd circumstances, and with no explanation with it or knowledge, is no proof that it is against natural law. And what he's talking about is miracles, right? He's saying that a miracle isn't something that goes against natural law just because it happens seldomly. It's something else. To go against a natural law is to say that it's a law like legislation, which it is not. What in the world are miracles, and what is this tangent that I'm going on? Well, many times, what we view as just nature, I think it's a miracle. I think the fact that the universe itself has a finite beginning shows that the greatest miracle of all has already taken place, and we're living in it. And that's not even to break down the detail and what I see as design and order in the natural world that we experience as fly fishers. It's pretty darn interesting. Chesterton also said that the deepest of all desires for knowledge is the desire to know what the world is for and what we are for. I'm going to say two things here, and I'll leave you with this short podcast to maybe think about and meditate as we jump into some more of the technical and storylines of people's lives that are involved in the fly fishing industry. On a strictly fly fishing level, man, what is fly fishing for, right? What is it really for in our lives? Is it just to get away from our families? I don't think it should ever be that. But maybe it is that for you. Is it to get away from your jobs? I know it can be that for me. And I hope that many of you listening have jobs that you really enjoy. And it's just the stress that shows up sometimes from that job that you're trying to escape from. And I think fly fishing is a wonderful escape in that sense. But what is it really for? I would challenge you that it's a conduit. I think fly fishing is a conduit, or maybe it's a way that is a foreshadow or a shadow of what is real. the enjoyment, the experience, the wonder, the thrill, the solace that comes when we're experiencing this has to have a greater grounding than just it's a sport I buy a license for and do once in a while. So where is it in this other thing? Is the deepest of all desires for knowledge is the desire to know what the world is for and what we are for. Here's my challenge. As we fly fish and as we tie our flies and as we read our books and as we fellowship, if you will, with friends and family that fly fish and trout camp and all these wonderful times that we set aside to go experience of all this, that's the question that I would like you to ask yourself. Maybe even bring it up under the evening sky after a day of casting and netting fish. What is the world for and what are we for? There's an answer to that. I think there's a really good answer to that. And I think Good Friday points to that. My son and I, a few years ago, did a trip to Porcupine Run, which is a tributary to Hemlock Creek in the little village of President. And we did it on Good Friday, or we did it before Good Friday, one or the other. And it's called Good Friday, I believe. It's on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. There's a little tiny spot in there that we discuss a little bit that helps us point to what we're here for and what the world is for. Friends, I'm excited for these guests that I got coming on and the knowledge drop that we're going to bring you. But it has to start here. We have to start with a sense of wonder. And I think fly fishing, I'll say this really clear, fly fishing doesn't save us. It's a conduit. It's a crack in the wall of what is real that helps us begin to be intrigued on what's back there. Why is fly fishing so fulfilling and so wonderful at times? What is that pointing us to? I think it's pointing us to the answer to that question that I just posed. I hope all of you have a wonderful Easter weekend. I will meet you back here next week as we discuss. We're going to jump around a little bit. We're going to talk about fly line and leaders. So stick with us. And we'll see you then. Remember, it is not about the destination. It is the journey that makes us. God bless.